What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're doing a quick 2 to 3 minute fantasy football breakdown of whichever player you selected, because this is a pre-recorded intro. Now, if you want to see a more in-depth breakdown of whatever player you selected, it'll be in the description below or a notification on top. I've done a previous video on most players, so you can find it anywhere on the channel. If you like what you see today, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We have plenty of fantasy football content coming your way before your drafts. So stay tuned and let's get to the video. Alright, so Christian McCaffrey. First off, I just want to start the profile by saying congratulations on getting the first overall pick. I mean, that's really the only reason why you're here is if you have the first or second pick and you need to decide whether you should take Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, or maybe go receiver on Michael Thomas. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But to start it off, Christian McCaffrey is just a beast. I mean, everybody has CMC as the number one player overall in fantasy. I mean, you'd be real hard pressed if you find someone that doesn't. I think he's the best player in fantasy football for 3 big reasons. I mean, the first one being health. He's never missed a game in his whole entire NFL career. Hasn't missed a single game. And last year too, over 400 touches. Okay, you don't get that a whole lot from players and they remain completely healthy. So that's pretty good to see. My second reason is his floor. He's the safest player this year in fantasy football. Even if, he had this big breakout season like he did in 2019, if he starts to come down to earth or come back to earth in 2020, and maybe he doesn't get all the workload, maybe he doesn't get near the 400 touches, maybe it's down in a little bit over 300, they decide they have to preserve him, preserve his workload a little bit. He did that in 2018, he did that in 2018 where he didn't run the ball as much. He barely got 1,000 rushing yards, but he still caught over 100 balls in back-to-back seasons. So I don't see the receptions going anywhere. And even if he does drop back to, maybe 1,000 rushing yards like he did in 2018, he still would have had the best fantasy football season last year with those yards. So I think he's pretty safe. And my third reason is ceiling. I mean, the dude, we just saw it, right? Maybe it was a little unrealistic because of 15 rushing touchdowns from a guy who, as jacked as he looks, he's still a small guy. I mean, he really is. Just because he has muscle, which this doesn't really make sense, but it does. Just because he has muscle doesn't mean he's big necessarily. And we've seen that with plenty of guys in the NFL that have these big rushing, touchdown seasons, and then they fall right back down again. And another thing that I like about the Carolina offense is Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, that really opens stuff up. He did it with Kyle Allen last year. If Teddy Bridgewater ends up not being that much of an upgrade, I'm cool with that, I think. I mean, is Kyle Allen better than Teddy Bridgewater? I don't think anyone would claim that. I don't see a scenario where you can go wrong with taking Christian McCaffrey your number one overall pick. If you're stuck between the Zeke Elliott safeness, he's pretty consistent all year. Saquon Barkley, has his up and down games, but we all know he's probably the most talented running back in the NFL. If you decide, hey, Michael Thomas, he was a beast last year, Drew Brees coming back for another season, why go him? To me, I just think it's too hard to pass up on Christian McCaffrey. If you want to go one of those other guys, go ahead. I strongly disagree with a guy that's going to be, pushing 300, 350 touches and catching over 100 passes at your running back spot, because that's a once in a generational type of player that you're missing out on if you go somewhere else. So I take Christian McCaffrey number one overall.